Hello there, all you lovelies. First off, I just wanted to say a very big thank you to all of the love that has been shown to the channel over the last month. That was not expected. I have simply just been sharing out those little shorts and tidbits out to my channel to more or less update what has been going on in my own backyard. So thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you stick around and you like what you see. And welcome to our little family over here in the corner of YouTube. And then because of the nature of the beast, when you're navigating through flood conditions, you're not going to be moving as you would on, say, an ORV trail. You're moving a lot slower, and I had so much footage from in the Jeep and also the drone footage that I've got. So this one's the boots on the ground within the Jeep, and then the next one will be all of the aerial footage that I gathered throughout the process. I made that call because as I was putting all the footage together, it's almost too jarring for the system and for you guys to watch. And then because everything had to be sped up by 2 times, we don't really have any working audio this round. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk you through everything as we go. At the start of this video is going to be basically how it looks on a more normal basis. And I felt like that was the right call to do for all of the footage and to keep it entertaining for you guys, so that way you could see that comparison on the daily basis as far as how things looked around here. And I just want to go through the video with you guys as well and explain to you guys what I saw, the decisions I had to make on the fly. And I feel like that's the right call as well, especially for you guys that might be newer to the off-road community, as far as like how to navigate high water like we've been experiencing over here. Floodwater in particular is a different kind of animal versus moving through the normal rivers on a trail or a puddle or something of that nature. So I will be kind of going over some of the safety tips, the rule of thumb, as far as moving through high water in general and in flooding conditions. With all that blabbing set aside, let's go ahead and get into the video. We're going to start with the normal conditions.
So I'm just going to pop in here real quick while we go through all of this dry footage and give you guys some safety tips. Maybe you've never navigated flood situations or high water situations before. I feel like it's a good call for you, just so you kind of understand why I make the decisions I do later once the actual flood footage sets in. So number 1, bottom line, when you come up to water like this, can you see to the bottom of the road? If it's murky, cloudy, and you can't, just don't even bother. Just try and find a different route. So my next major point would be, how familiar are you with the area? Can you use landmarks in order to know just how deep the water really is? The next major question you want to ask yourself is, how fast is that water actually moving? Sometimes water is very deceiving. It might look calm on the surface, but underneath it could be rushing and moving very quickly. With water in particular, it does not take very much water to pick you up and move you to a place that you do not belong, whether that's the river itself, a bayou, the swamp, just a ditch, any place where you might not be able to rescue yourself from. So another major point I'm going to make is, if you do decide to move through high water circumstances, don't move quickly. Crawl in slowly and move cautiously, but keep your tires moving. The only reason for that point is because if you were to go through the water quickly, there's the chance that you could suck water up and into your air intake, wherever it's at on your vehicle, and then you hydrolock your engine and you're dead in the water. Which brings me to my last point. If you do climb into an obstacle and you're getting into it and you realize something just doesn't feel right, or maybe the water's coming up way too fast, maybe your tires are sinking, maybe the front of the vehicle is actually getting moved because there is a current under the water and you just didn't see it, there is zero shame in stopping what you're doing and reversing out of the obstacle. It's better to stay safe rather than to drown or get swept out into a river or something bad with your vehicle. So here at the north end of the Bass River Recreational Area, this is the highest point in the flood zone, so it's perfect for kind of seeing just how high the water actually got the entire time. This day in particular is the highest I ever saw the water here at the north end of the park. This little area right here where we drove through while it was dry now is completely underwater. This end of the park is rather unique with the way that the wind pushes the water at the shoreline and then the water recedes back out into the gravel pit. With this place in particular, that soil is so saturated at this point, I couldn't risk knowing how the wind and the water move in at the shoreline and move back out, that those areas weren't washed out and were deeper than what I could perceive, because of the fact that it's murky as well. I can't see the bottom, so I don't know what lies underneath. This area in particular, while you're looking out at that tree, that's probably a good 3.5, 4.5 foot up that tree, if not higher, just based upon like my own personal experience with this area. I've been here for 10 years. Here I'm just kind of flaunting off just how high that water has come up to that shoreline and right up to the road and butting up with where the vehicles drive through. But here you can usually drive up to that little tree out there. So here at the south end of the Bass River Recreational Area, I opted not to even try to push through it. The water was still too murky. The water off to my right here is actually pushing out towards that end of the park. It's coming in from the river into the swamp and out towards that stretch in front of me. So I decided that was just not safe to even try to attempt to even cross. Here I just kind of go around the corner just to kind of see how this is going. Based upon the debris in front of you as I come to a stop, you can see that the river has receded a little bit, probably since the night prior, but it's still just too deep to go through it, and it's also still really murky. So back here at the north end of the Bass River Recreational Area, I'm just kind of doing my lap here. I'm going to drive up to that little spot just to kind of see how far the water has pushed back. But even just looking straight on at that, yes, it's gone down, but it's still really muddy, and I still can't see the lowest point in that pit, so I'm not even going to push through it. So back here at the Riverside Park, this was a great place to kind of showcase how water moves during a flood. Here at the Riverside Park, there's that bayou that's right off in front of me at this point, and it's actually separate from the river. The river was dumping into the bayou and then dumping back out into the river here at the boat launch. But this is a perfect example of how water moves over a shallow surface and how fast it can be moving on a shallow surface that might only be a few feet deep, but that could easily sweep me back out into the river. It just wasn't worth the risk. So here at the south end of the park, I do opt to drive through it, but that's only because I could actually see all the way to the bottom. The entire time I'm driving on this, my head is actually out the driver window and I'm watching where my tires are being placed, so I'm still up on the road. I'm also moving very slow. I might have been doing 3 or 4 miles an hour the entire time I was going through this. It does get deep enough to the point where it comes up over the bully bar of my bumper right there. So it's really deep, but I was pretty confident I could make it through it because I could see the bottom, I could see the water had slowed down, everything had settled, and I could see where my tires needed to be placed. Going back through this, you can kind of get that sense, and you can kind of start to see the shadows in the road to just see how clear that water really was. It's a little churned up because I'd already come through it once, but as I'm going through it, I'm still leaning out the driver window. I'm watching where my tires are. I'm looking for obstacles in my way in front. You never know. Something could wash up like a large tree branch or something as you make it through the first time and then swish it around. So I was still being very careful as I was moving through this, and I just so happened to have an audience that day. So it just kind of added to the fun of it. So here I did finally opt to drive through this as well, seeing as the actual lower end of the park was safe to travel through. I knew this end would be shallow enough to move the Jeep through safely. Again, I'm still moving slowly though, evaluating. Okay, yep, I can see the bottom, so therefore I moved through it and enjoyed it. I still have my head out the driver window as I'm watching because this road in particular sits pretty level with either side of the road, but there are a few tiny ditches on either side, so you do want to pay attention and be careful. So this is the very next day back at the north end of the Bass River recreational area. I have Tony in the truck with me, and as we pull up to this, I take a note of just how washed out that gravel is as I approach, but I can see through to the bottom, so I do decide to drive through it. However, I can also see on the other side what awaits me, which actually makes me a little bit more nervous. As I climb out, I'm thinking, oh great, so now how am I going to get out of this one? The ground is super soft, it's kind of squishy underneath the Jeep, you could feel it while you were driving into it. Here, Tony's kind of pushing me to keep going forward, but looking at that guardrail right out there, that tells me it's like 2.5, 3 foot deep. And I'm here just kind of demonstrating to him as I slowly climb in, because there is a road that wraps around to the left here, but I'm showing him just how quickly that water rises, and I still can't see through to the bottom on this end. So I'm like super nervous. I can feel the tires are sinking, and therefore I just tell him, no, I'm just gonna get out of here, buddy. This isn't a good situation. It's too deep for the Jeep. So here is the side angle as we go into this area where he was kind of trying to push me to go through. And I like this one because it kind of shows you how my tires are kind of squishing down into the mud. It shows just how cloudy this water is as we get into it. Whatever is underneath the water level, you already can't see the tire, which I found was interesting once I started watching the footage back. That's just how murky that water is. So in my mind, I don't know whether this road around the corner here, even if it's still there underneath, it could be washed out. It could be completely saturated, and I could be setting myself up to be in a lot of trouble here. And that was when I just kind of told him, like, nah, bud, we just need to get out of here. I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to risk being dead in the water in the middle of the gravel pits here. But that's a prime example of, if you start getting into something, don't be afraid to back out of it. It's better to be safe than to be sorry later. So with that, I'll quit blabbing and I'll let you guys enjoy the next couple of minutes without any commentary or anything. So enjoy.
Legs ain't got time to lay low. Your knees are bending, so it's time to get up and let go. Hey, mama, how's it going? Can see your body moving. Don't leave the party dying. Keep booty shaking, you know your head has no right to say no. Tonight it's ready, set, go. Baby, can you move around the rhythm so we can get with and jump around and get us a rock and roll round? With the countdown, body coming with the super hottie, let's go. No slow, hell no, baby, can you move around the rhythm? Cause you know I'm living in the fast lane. Speed up, it ain't no game. Just turn up all the beams when I come upon the scene. Hey, brother, what you thinking? That good old sound is ringing. They don't know what they're missing. Legs ain't got time to lay low. Your knees are bending, so it's time to get up and let go. Hey, brother, listen steady. Put down your brick, you ready. It's hot when things get messy. Keep booty shaking, you know your head has no right to say no. Tonight it's ready, set, go. Baby, can you move around the rhythm so we can get with